Welcome to Official History World, where history comes alive. Explore the events, empires, and people that shaped our world. Subscribe and be part of our journey through time.
What if I told you that one U.S. president, a man often overshadowed by Lincoln, Roosevelt, and Washington, quietly redesigned the backbone of America's economy, and you've probably never even thought about him? A president who wasn't flashy, wasn't scandalous, and wasn't loud, yet his policies set in motion the rise of modern American industry, shaped the global balance of power, and redefined the way Americans lived, worked, and competed in the world. That man was William McKinley, the Tariff King. And while his name might not be the first to pop into your head when you think of America's most influential leaders, the truth is, McKinley's fingerprints are all over the America we live in today. So buckle up, because this is not just a history lesson, it's a story of power, economics, politics, and a leader who understood the art of quiet transformation. William McKinley was born in 1843 in Niles, Ohio. Unlike many of America's founding fathers or Civil War-era giants, McKinley wasn't a man of grand speeches or fiery charisma. He was soft-spoken, polite, and often described as warm and approachable. But don't let that fool you. Behind his calm personality was a political genius who understood the mechanics of economics and the pulse of the working-class voter. McKinley fought bravely in the Civil War, rising to the rank of major. That military service gave him both credibility and a lifelong respect for veterans, working men, and ordinary Americans. He wasn't a Harvard intellectual or a Wall Street mogul. He was one of them. 2. To understand McKinley's rise, you need to picture America in the late 1800s. The Civil War was over, yes, but the country was in economic chaos. The U.S. was transitioning from a mostly agricultural society to an industrial powerhouse. Factories were popping up. Railroads connected east to west. Steel, oil, and textiles were booming. But here's the catch. Foreign goods were pouring in, often cheaper than American-made products. European nations had long established industries that could outprice American businesses. This posed a terrifying question. Should America open its markets freely and let consumers enjoy cheap goods? Should America protect its industries so they could grow, compete, and eventually dominate? McKinley had his answer. Protect American workers, protect American jobs, protect American industries. And that's where tariffs come into the story. Now, before your eyes glaze over at the word tariff, let's break it down simply. A tariff is just a tax on imported goods. If Britain tried to sell steel in the US, a tariff would make that steel more expensive than American steel. The idea? Force consumers to buy American, and in turn, grow domestic jobs. Think about it like this. Imagine you're at the grocery store, and you see apples from your local farm at $1 each. But imported apples from overseas cost only 50 cents. Naturally, you'd pick the cheaper one, right? Now imagine the government steps in and says, imported apples now cost $1.20 because of a tax. Suddenly, local apples are cheaper. Guess what? You're buying American. That's the tariff game, and McKinley was the master. McKinley first rose to prominence in Congress, where he championed what became known as the McKinley Tariff of 1890. This wasn't just any tariff, it was one of the highest protective tariffs in U.S. history at the time. It raised the average duty on imports to nearly 50%. Supporters called it a shield for American workers. Critics called it a robbery of the poor man's pocket. Here's the fascinating part. While industrialists and workers in the North cheered, farmers in the South and West were furious. They needed to export crops abroad, and high tariffs invited retaliation from other nations. It was a bold, divisive move, but it cemented McKinley's reputation as the protector of American industry. So how did McKinley sell such controversial policies? Unlike many politicians, McKinley had a rare talent. He could connect with the average voter. He didn't preach from ivory towers. He sat on porches, shook hands, listened to concerns, and spoke plainly. People called it the front porch campaign. He understood that politics wasn't just about economics. It was about stories, emotions, and trust. Think about it. Doesn't that sound a lot like modern-day political campaigns? You don't just sell policies. You sell visions, values, and identities. McKinley was doing that before it was cool. In 1896, McKinley ran for president. His opponent, William Jennings Bryan, a fiery populist whose famous cross of gold speech electrified the nation. Bryan wanted silver-backed currency to help struggling farmers. McKinley wanted the gold standard to maintain economic stability. But more importantly, McKinley wanted America to embrace modern capitalism and industrial growth. The election was a clash between old rural America and new industrial America, and McKinley, the candidate of progress and protection, won. Now as president, McKinley's tariff philosophy turned into real national strategy. He reduced unemployment, revived struggling industries, and restored business confidence. His policies helped usher in what historians call the McKinley prosperity. But that's not all. McKinley's presidency saw the Spanish-American War, 1898, which unexpectedly transformed the U.S. into a global power, annexation of Hawaii, securing America's presence in the Pacific, expansion of overseas markets, which meant American goods weren't just made for Americans anymore, they were sold to the world. This was the turning point. McKinley wasn't just protecting American industries anymore, he was positioning America to dominate global trade. Here's where things get really interesting. When you hear modern debates about free trade versus protectionism, you're basically hearing an echo of McKinley's era. Think of Trump's tariffs on China. Think of the debates over outsourcing jobs to Asia. Think of discussions about Made in America products. All of it traces back to the McKinley way of thinking. He asked, do we protect our industries at home, or do we expose them to global competition? That's a question we're still struggling with today. Sadly, McKinley's story ended in tragedy. In 1901, while attending the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York, he was shot by an anarchist named Leon Czolgosz. McKinley died days later, making way for Theodore Roosevelt to become president. Roosevelt would go on to dominate history books, overshadowing McKinley. But make no mistake, Roosevelt inherited the America McKinley built. William McKinley may not have the dramatic flair of Lincoln or the iconic leadership of Washington, but his legacy is undeniable. He reshaped America's economy. He paved the way for the U.S. to become a global power. He sparked debates about trade and protectionism that rage on even today. In short, McKinley showed that sometimes quiet leaders, with steady hands and bold ideas, can transform a nation more profoundly than the loudest voices. What many people overlook is that McKinley's tariff policies weren't just about protecting industries. They were about creating a national identity of economic independence. By making Made in America goods the standard, he encouraged innovation, growth, and pride in domestic products. Interestingly, his policies also fueled the rise of powerful labor unions and manufacturing hubs in cities like Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Chicago. These industrial giants would later supply weapons in 2 world wars and cement America as the arsenal of democracy. In other words, McKinley didn't just reshape the economy, he laid the foundation for America's role as a superpower. So the next time you hear debates about trade wars, tariffs, or protecting American jobs, remember, this isn't new. It's the same fight William McKinley waged over a century ago. And maybe that's the real lesson here. History doesn't just repeat itself. It whispers through the ages, waiting for us to listen. If this story made you see history in a new light, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe, because more forgotten stories like this are waiting to be told.